everybody, good morning, it's JPR and welcome back to another video. Before any trainer can become a champion, or even have the opportunity to battle a champion, they must overcome one final obstacle. No, it's not the Victory Road, or a major battle tournament, or a legendary Pokemon. It's 4 dudes ominously sitting in a room. And in this video, I'm going to be going through every region's Elite Four except Galar, because Galar doesn't have one, to determine which ones are the best and the worst. And if you're wondering why I'm not talking about the champions in this video, it's because I already did that, so you can go watch that later. I don't know if Kanto has the worst of the worst Elite Fours, but I would consider it somewhat disappointing. I do enjoy Lorelei and Bruno kind of being like upgraded versions of Brock and Misty. It does bring the journey full circle in a way. Agatha is an okay personality, but I kind of wish there was more to her relationship with Professor Oak. Them being childhood rivals that eventually grew bitter towards each other always seemed like such a cool premise, but not much was ever done with it. And Lance is cool, but it's pretty much just a standard dragon dude in the Kanto-based games. He doesn't really get characterized much until Johto rolls around. But characters aside, where this Elite Four really falls flat is the Pokemon. It's hard to be too critical of the diversity in a region where the dex only has 150 Pokemon. That's like being mad at Wyoming for being full of white people. But, the choices still aren't great here. Lorelei passes with flying colors, even if she does have to dip into the water-type Pokemon quite a bit. But Bruno literally has 2 Onixes in every game except Let's Go, where he's finally given a Poliwrath. And even then, he could have been given a Primeape instead of an Onix. Not to mention, Onix is easily one of the worst Pokemon for the stage in the game. It's like he's trying to lose! Agatha just suffers from Ghost not even being a fully fleshed out type in Gen 1, as she's simply allowed 2 Gengar and a Haunter. And Haunter actually gets subbed out for Weezing in Let's Go. And as for Lance, first of all, this is the crustiest Gyarados moveset I've ever seen. And he has to double up on Dragonair. Let's Go did give him Seadra and Charizard instead, which admittedly makes him a tougher fight since you can't just spam Ice Beam, but at the same time, it's Let's Go. All of these Pokemon have 3 moves, so is it really tougher? I will say, the rematch teams for all 4 of these guys are really good in Let's Go. They all have proper movesets now, and they each get 1 Alolan form added to their team, which is a great way to add some variety. I just kinda hate that it's the post-game, and not the main story. As for Johto's Elite Four, which I guess is technically still Kanto's Elite Four, but for the sake of this video, we're gonna pretend that they're different, I would actually put this one slightly on the best side. All 4 of them have pretty widely varied teams with decent move coverage. Well, except Goga, his team kinda sucks. And Karen's Gengar's moveset looks like this for some reason. Lick instead of Shadow Ball is really puzzling, especially considering Morty's Gengar had it like 20 levels ago. And character-wise, Will is a cool design, even though it's a bit disappointing that we never learn where he came from. In my mind, he's just a relative to Sabrina. I do kind of like how he has Jinx and Slowbro, so he does feel like a proper successor to Lorelei, who had these same Pokemon. And Koga, again, is probably the weakest link to this Elite Four. His team is very underwhelming. In fact, they almost entirely just copied his moves from Gen 2 to the remakes, so he's not much of a challenge at all. Though I do like the idea of a gym leader getting promoted to an Elite Four member. It gives me hope that a gym leader actually isn't a dead-end job in this universe. Though in the original Gen 2 beta, Misty and Giovanni were supposedly meant to be here instead, which, man, that would have been way cooler than Koga. Bruno is pretty much the same as he appeared in Gen 1, but his team is infinitely better than it was before. Technician Triple Kick Hitmontop, Reckless Hitmonlee with High Jump Kick, Hitmonchan with all the elemental punches, Onix, and a No-Guard Machamp with Rock Slide coverage for flying types. Yeah, this team is spooky to fight in Nuzlocke. As for Karen, well, we mostly remember her more for her quote than the battle itself, but hey, first ever Dark-type specialist, which is kinda cool. And while her base game team is nothing crazy, her rematch team is actually super solid. Like Will, my only gripe with her is that we never learned much about her, but despite playing such a minor role in the game, she is quite memorable. Hoenn Elite Four, oof. This is a tough one. I would probably say the original is more bad than good, but in the remakes, I think they're a lot better. And character-wise, these are basically just 4 dudes and dudettes that have no backstory or significance to the plot whatsoever. Except for Drake, I'd say their designs are kinda boring, and honestly their teams are rather boring too. Sydney's is okay, though it sucks that he has to double up on grass dark types. Phoebe literally has to repeat not 1, but 2 Pokemon, and Glacia repeats the same thing with her Glalie and Celio. Not even the Kanto Elite Four was this bad. Like, I know, these are the only Ice and Ghost type Pokemon in all of Hoenn, so it's more of a dex issue than anything, but it's still kinda disappointing. And they could have given Phoebe Shedinja. Would it have made kids cry? Yes, but they could figure it out. Drake, once again, I'll give props to. Great team, great movesets, at least by Gen 3 standards. This guy gave me fits bad enough to get my Game Boy taken away when I was younger, and I respect him for it. But all 4 of these guys glow up monumentally at ORAS. It's like the rarest W for difficulty in all of Gen 6. Sydney kind of looks like the Sham WoW guy now, which is a little strange, but that's beside the point. Phoebe gets one of her Dusclops upgraded to a Dusknoir, which is hype, and Glacia traded a Glalie for a Frostlass. So while the variety still isn't great, they at least improved on it a little bit. And Drake actually gets to keep his Kingdra from Emerald, which is like the only time ORAS kept an Emerald improvement in the base game, but hey, one's better than none, I suppose. I don't know why this man is running Screech on a Flygon with 3 special moves, but whatever, go off King. If that's your only mistake, I can look past it. And geez, the bar was already set sky high in Heart Gold and Soul Silver with these rematch teams, but somehow, ORAS got even better, since all 4 of them gain a Mega Evolution. I would have liked to see this more in the base game, since you can kind of run through these guys with a broken Mega of your own, but hey, again, better late than never. And they actually leave the Pokemon League in ORAS, except for Glacia, which is nice. It shows they have lives outside their 9-to-5 jobs. Oh, and I almost forgot, they have bangin' music. ORAS removing the claps is definitely a sin, though. Anyway, I might have lied. Sinnoh's Elite Four might be an even harder decision than Hoenn's. First and most importantly, this is the most dripless Elite Four. We have Guy in Vest, Grandma, Ronald McDonald, and Will Without a Mask. Somebody please get these people some fits. Challenge-wise, though, they might be the best. And that's despite the fact that we can laugh at Aaron for having a Dustox and a Beautifly, and Flint for only having 2 fire types because lol Sinnoh. But hey, looking at their Platinum teams or their BDSP rematch teams, there's nothing to make fun of. Aaron actually uses Flygon on a team full of bugs, fulfilling our wildest fantasies. And in the base game of BDSP, this Elite Four does not mess around. Flint uses a Minimize and Strength Sap Drifblim that he baton passes to a Focus Sashed Iron Fist Infernape. Who let Ilka cook? Look, I hate BDSP as much as the next guy who also hates BDSP, but I have to commend them. This is by far the most challenging Elite Four of all time. Granted, those games have EXP share and affection baked into them, so maybe for you they didn't seem as hard as they should have been, but trust me, they made 4 monster bosses here. But regardless of which game you're playing, Diamond and Pearl, Platinum, or the remakes, this has always been one of the toughest Elite Fours. And I guess for me personally, as someone who holds challenge in the highest regard when it comes to the Elite Four, I suppose I have no choice but to put them in the best category. But the actual best people in the world are the ones who are subscribed to this channel. Don't worry, there's still time to make that list. Just scroll down and hit that big button. Even if you think you're subscribed, just go and check and make sure. Okay, so Unova's Elite Four is also kinda tricky. I feel like I'm saying that for almost every Elite Four now, but bear with me. First of all, I don't like how they repeat so many types from previous Elite Fours. I know, it's Gen 5, at this point it's getting hard to be original. But how many times do we have to see Ghost, Dark, Psychic, and Fighting show up in the Elite Four? These are definitely the 4 most saturated Pokemon League types. I'll give them a couple points for drip though. All 4 of these character designs are slick, and again, I appreciate them actually appearing outside the league. Chantal shows up at Cynthia's Villa, Grimsley, heck, he shows up in Alola of all places, and wait a minute, is that Caitlyn? From the Battle Frontier? Man, talk about a weird shift, but seeing a recurring character all the way out here in Unova is super cool. This is also the first Elite Four where you can choose your own path, and I do adore this league for its general aesthetics. Instead of just being a series of long, dreary hallways, it's a cool castle with a lot of neat little animations in every room. The presentation is much better than any previous league. And like Hoenn, they have their own original Elite Four theme, which is another absolute banger. Now, here's the bad. Like Kanto and Sinnoh, having only 150 Pokemon in the base decks means that these teams had to be restricted a bit. But unlike previous Elite Four members who would either repeat species or grab Pokemon from a different type, these Elite Four members all use 4 Pokemon, which, I'm not gonna lie, is just a bit disappointing for this late in the game. Especially since the only one who is truly held back by this predicament is Chantal. The other 3 types have at least 5 evolutionary lines in the Unova decks. Which, again, they could have avoided this issue by just choosing 4 different types. Perhaps even more disappointingly, they still use only 4 Pokemon in Black 2 and White 2 despite having a dex twice as large. They do have a 5th Pokemon in Challenge mode, but you need to beat the game to unlock that first. And even then, the only Elite Four member to change a single member from their Black and White team in normal mode is Chantal, who subs out Jellicent for Drifblim. Again, this Elite Four is fantastic in Black 2 and White 2's challenge mode, as well as the rematches in both pairs of games, but it feels like they have just as much going against them as they have going for them. I have to call this one neutral. The Kalos League. Do I even need to go into detail on this one? It sucks. Okay, you know what? Fine. I'll list off some things I do like about this league. Big cool castle again, but this feels different from Unova's design. The general design is much more clean and prestigious, it matches that French vibe. The music of the league area is the best of any league area, though I can take or leave the actual Elite Four theme. Yes, the guitars are cool, but that's like 20 seconds out of a 2-minute loop. Like Unova, the league is non-linear and all the Elite Four chambers have really cool entrances and designs. And the league types are actually original this time. Steel, Dragon, Fire, and Water is such a dope lineup. And that's where my compliments come to an end. Once again, all the Elite Four members only use 4 Pokemon, and hardly any of them pose any sort of a challenge, aside from maybe Seabolds and CS Starmie and Gyarados. Other than that, these members pick the most incredibly easy Pokemon to defeat. There's also no rematches at all outside of the Battle Chateau, which is more of a joke than anything serious. And perhaps the nail in the coffin is just how boring and forgettable these guys are. The only one with any kind of substance outside the league is Malva, since she's a former Team Flare member, but even then, they do less with her than I would have liked. Moving on to the Alola League. Look, you know what? You guys tried. You whipped out every excuse in the book. Oh, this is our first league. It only makes sense to get all the island kahunas together. Okay, that's all great and dandy, but it doesn't mean I'm just gonna give you a passing grade. They tried to get some brownie points from me by giving all the Elite Four members 5 Pokemon again after 2 gens with only 4. I'm not sure why most of Olivia's Pokemon only have 3 moves and most of Hollow's only have 2, but I'm assuming that's why he got fired and replaced with Moraine in the Ultra games. I know they all have Z moves, but still having coverage wouldn't hurt. I don't know, challenge-wise, it's definitely not the easiest Elite Four, but not really the hardest either. If we wrapped it there, I'd say this is an acceptable Pokemon League, but there are some other issues. First off, while we do get rematches back here, they're really boring. Nobody changes Pokemon, they just get 10-ish levels higher and get slightly better move pools. Maybe this is because Alola doesn't have a true national dex for its postgame, but regardless of the reason, it's pretty disappointing. The league in general is just one of the more boring ones from the 3D era. It's not too interesting aesthetically or musically. It kind of feels like an AI-generated Pokemon League. Maybe that's what they were going for since Kukui just made it. It's definitely not as polished as past leagues, but I don't know, it just doesn't stick out in any memorable way. With all that being said, I gotta put it on the worst side. Hey, we can skip Galar, isn't that nice? For the first time since Generation 6, a proper Pokemon League would return in Scarlet and Violet. Now, pardon me while I look up the Elite Four members because I don't actually remember any of their names. Okay, here we go. On paper, these teams don't look too bad. They all have full movesets with lots of great coverage moves, but when you actually play against them, you'll probably find them quite easy. Rika's team consists of some very slow ground types aside from Dugtrio with very glaring weaknesses. By and large, it's not hard to deal with. Poppy is kinda the same, her whole team is really slow, and as long as you have a certain fire crocodile, it shouldn't be hard. Look, Larry, I love you bro, hope you're getting that sweet bag, but you literally have a Tropius on this team. Hassel is really the only one whose team could actually give most people some issues. They're all relatively fast with some pretty powerful attacks. All 4 of them do use Terastallization, but to be honest, since they all Terastallize into their own respective types, it's not exactly hard to deal with. Like Alola, I would say this is neither the easiest nor the hardest Elite Four. If anything, I can confidently say that they are better than Gita. Is that really a good thing though? Design-wise, I do like all these guys. Rika gives off this vibe of just being the chill guidance counselor. Poppy is literally a child, which is quite surprising. Larry is just Larry, he's great and we all love him. Plus, it was also a bit unexpected for a gym leader to double as an Elite Four member. That has never been done outside of Alola reusing their kahunas. And Hassel is literally your art teacher, which is also kind of funny. And I do sort of like how this league feels more like a final exam for the school rather than a traditional Pokemon League. It's still not my favorite league, but it at least has some flavor to it that sets it apart. But again, what's up with no rematches? I know you can fight Hassel in the Ace Academy tournament, and Larry can be battled again as a gym leader, but you can't actually rematch the league. Maybe it'll be a DLC thing, but still, it's just a little irksome that you can't do it. Overall, this league is just fine. Like Unova, I can't say it's best or worst, it's just in the middle. At least if I don't count Gita. If I did count Gita, they'd get dragged down for sure, but for the Elite Four, they're fine. But that'll wrap it up for today's video. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more videos just like this one. I'll see you guys next time.